I'm the socialist in Seattle City Hall. And it is my duty and honor to stand on the front lines alongside everybody who is fighting in this movement. Last night, this movement won a victory here by forcing the cops to surrender East Precinct. You made it happen. Those of us who've been here night after night, this victory belongs to you and to the people.
Needs to be able to basically be down here day and night?
Well, I mean, one is somebody needs to take ownership. Well, first of all, if someone needs to take ownership of this, you see what I'm saying? And if they take ownership of it, that's a commitment. That's why it's called sacrifice. That's why leadership takes sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? There's an old saying that you can't phone it in. So, I mean, I don't think somebody needs to camp out here and be out here or whatever. What I'm saying, though, is the same voice that's respected on the mic right there needs to also be respected down here on the lower level. They don't need to be here all day, every day or whatever, but it's the same thing. You can't be known up here on the hill and not known down there on the valley. And I think that's where the gap is out here. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's where it's a lot of miscommunication, because you got people who are on the mic and they're really known, or people who are just really known down here, but they can't get up on the mic. You see what I'm saying? So there's somehow there has to be a balance that's in there, or a mix or something, because there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
And they're gonna let the band, whatever they're trying to build here, whatever these protesters are doing, it's gonna get away from them. It is gonna get away from them fast, unless somebody, some organization, somebody somehow is going to take ownership of it. Councilmember Sawant came in here and claimed victory. She ain't been here since, though. You know what I'm saying? When you claim something, that's ownership. So you know what I'm saying? You've taken ownership of it. If you're no longer going to own it, Councilwoman, then relinquish it. You know what I'm saying? If you are going to own it, your organization, you guys are big, your organizers, walk these streets so they can live. You know what I'm saying?
I think
That's
what Omari's pointing out here is a really valid point, because a lot of the personality and energy and vitality of this movement really resides in the people, as you can see. And he's describing a dynamic that you don't really actually witness unless you're here experiencing it. So I think he's right. I think there needs to be someone who can emerge out of this that really understands the issues of the people here on both sides, whether it's the Hill, whether it's at the park. And I think that understanding that there's this divergent dynamic happening on both sides here of what we're calling CHOP or Capitol Hill or CHAZ. I mean, basically, it's good for folks to understand that. And I think that you're hitting the nail on the head.
You know,
here.
these are high bars, but I mean, I'm going to say these names because these are names that people know and they recognize. People, when you talk about a leadership, as Barack Obama was in the White House, but Barack Obama could walk the streets.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Man, people love, even better than Barack Obama in a sense, was Bill Clinton. And I'm not talking in a political sense, Republican or Democrat, but that was Bubba from Hope, Arkansas. You see what I'm saying? Could really go out there and be in the fields, but could also navigate, you know what I'm saying, Washington, D.C. We're talking about 6 city blocks here. We don't necessarily need Barack, and we don't need Bubba. We just need somebody who knows how to talk the talk from the top of this hill right here, just over there to Cal Anderson Park, maybe, and go and, you know what I'm saying, light some candles over here, check in with the medics and everything else. The task isn't that big right now. Right now, it's not that big, but I mean, just as somebody's been reporting on this story from day one, and I've been saying the same thing from day one, that, you know what I'm saying, we need that connection.
Hey, I think I'm going to throw this out here because I done heard it. So many people down here have told it to me. They see you as a leader, You know, they see you as a mayor of this place. I mean,
I'm gonna tell you,
having your
Deaf Chef in the building.
Hey, what's up, brother? How are you, baby? Good to see you.
You're the only one who can walk on our live set.
The only one. That's our brother. You know what I mean? But really, a lot of folks are like, hey, Omari's the mayor of CHAZ. Omari's the one.
I mean, but that'll tell you something, though, that if a guy up until 3 days ago with nothing but an iPhone 8, just walking around and listening. If people want to say that, oh, Omari's this and that, guess what? The only thing I've done is listen.
Yeah.
And that'll tell you that there's not enough people with a platform that listen.
Right.
If we're able to attract people and people are like, man, you know what? This guy's cool, it's fair. That's the only thing. It's no bag of magic. It was an outdated iPhone we was using, 4 years old, believe it or not. Used to jam up on us and everything. That's why it lose signal and lose everything. But it's the effort to listen, the effort to understand. These aren't hard virtues. These are everyday things. But let me do this because we're up against a hard break. I know that we got Shakundi.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We actually got my brother out here. It's just why he came out here though. I mean, when it was getting funky, when they was putting the gas, it was my birthday.
Yeah,
I got gassed up on my birthday out here. My brother came. He was like, man, where's he at? Where's he at?
He had your back.
So we're gonna take a quick break right now, and when we come back, then Shakundi will be out here, and I know that he's gonna be giving an update on his purview as what's going on, but some of the other things that he's been engaged in the community.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a great day, and I love having these discussions with you. It's so great because the dynamics have changed a lot, and I'm just grateful that you've been on the ground to report to them. So thank you guys. I got to get to the press conference myself.
Oh,
so,
you're running on, so I guess this is my interview coming up next. All right.
So thank you guys so much. This has been a great day today, and thank you, O.
Yep, we're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we got Shakundi Salisbury. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
We love you! We love you! We came in peace. We're going to leave in peace. Do not let anybody disrupt our movement, y'all. We came with a purpose. And we're going to leave with a purpose.
We got to bring him back. Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I'm your host, Omari Salisbury. As usual these days, man, we've crawled out of our bunker here in the CHOP, you know what I'm saying, and made it to the street level, broadcasting live here today. This doesn't happen often, and I hope somebody, if my mama's not watching, I hope somebody calls my mom because this doesn't happen a lot, especially these days. I got the privilege of interviewing my brother, Shakundi Salisbury. What's up, Kun? Well, I call him Kun, but you know.
Hey, what's up, Big O?
What's up, man?
It's a privilege to be here. First of all, full disclosure, today is my flex day at work, so I'm off work for people that know that I work for the city of Seattle. And, I'm off today. Officially.
Hey, because, the hate is real. It's somebody over there using the stitch line like, hey, I think I saw this guy. So, man, a few things. I know we got a few minutes here, man, but a few things is one. Mr. Live Director here played a video. We were supposed to, what we do on TV was actually set it up for you. You know what I'm saying, and talk about it and everything else. But describe to us the clip that actually played before we came back from break.
So that was a clip from Saturday. I believe it was the first rallies. Basically that Saturday where I led a rally and a march down at in front of the police station, in front of City Hall. That was one of the first rallies of that day. And I just really led the crowd in a chant of we love you, we came in peace, right? Obviously, things broke down from there, but, I feel like it's really important to let people know that, love wins the day.
And that in our community who've been fighting on the front lines of this battle, also around other demands, which we'll talk about. We've got Teal Sean Turner, who is a native of Seattle, member of Laborers 242, and has been on the front lines at CHAZ, now the Capitol Hill occupied protest area. We've also got Tristan Spears, who's a Seattle community activist. Before we turn to them to talk about why it's so clear that we need to ban chemical weapons, chokeholds, and other quote-unquote crowd control mechanisms, I'm going to go ahead and explain real briefly what the agenda is for today. We'll talk first with Teal Sean and Tristan about why we need to ban these horrible weapons, which are in fact already banned by the United Nations as not fit for even war, but nonetheless are still being used en masse on community, including young people, as we've seen over and over again during the past several days. But we're also going to talk after that about some of the ways that Seattle City Council members, some of the ways that we know they're going to try today to delay this legislation so that they can water it down. We're going to go over some of the arguments that we've been hearing over the past several days on the City Council in Shama Sawant's office, and we're going to prep for ways to respond, talking again with Teal, Sean, and Tristan. And then most importantly, we don't just want to talk about it. We're going to walk people through at about 11:50, 11:55. We're going to walk people through the process for giving public comment. And then at noon, around noon, is when the Seattle City Council website opens up, and we're going to walk people through the process of signing up for public comment. The goal, of course, is that we can have this discussion, figure out why we need to ban chemical weapons as though we don't already know, but then really how we can apply that maximum pressure to City Hall to get this legislation passed. And then, of course, we don't just want to stop there. We want to go on to other things like getting protesters released, like defunding the police by at least 50%, and other basic demands, which again, Teal, Sean, and Tristan will talk a lot about. During this process, we really hope that Councilmember Sawant's going to be able to make an appearance, talk about these issues as well. That also is not a guarantee, though, because she's currently involved in doing the actual work of trying to combat these amendments, trying to figure out how we can most effectively take the community voice into City Hall to win this legislation. But without further ado, why don't we just go ahead and kick it off? I know that everybody watching here has a lot of ideas or maybe even experiences, especially over the past week or two, about why we need to ban chemical weapons, tear gas, flashbangs, etc. But I want to talk with Teal, Sean, who again has been at the front lines this last many days. Why Teal, Sean, do you think we so urgently need to pass this legislation? And Teal, Sean, I think you're muted currently.
Yeah, here we go. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right, let's do this. Honestly, dude, if it's already like, let's be real. Seattle Police Department, everybody has statistics, right? Every police department, everything in life has a statistic to it, correct? So Seattle Police Department's brutality rate against blacks and brown people is 32%. Now, that's only given the fact that black and brown people only make up between 3 and 8% of Seattle's population. So as you can see, there's a problem with that because we don't even make up the majority of the population, and these weapons are being used on us like we're terrorists, like we're members of a terrorist organization. Like, this is not Afghanistan. The Geneva Convention bans those weapons used in war. You can't even use those weapons on a foreign soil. Why would you use them here at home against American citizens in your city? That makes no sense. These things are known to kill people and cause harm down the road, 20 years down the road. Tear gas is like silica. It's made up of little dust particles that you only see with a microscope. It deposits into your lung and creates respiratory problems, which means 10 years from now, you can have emphysema from being tear gas now. So the thing is, if the Geneva Convention was put in place to ban that in war, why would you use them here? It makes no sense. Like, these are regular people. All we have is umbrellas and regular clothes. We don't have riot gear and all that extra stuff that they have. We didn't come strapped up like that. We came to exercise our First Amendment right, and what happened? We got tear gassed for it. We got our First Amendment rights violated because we decided to speak up and decided we weren't going to be quiet or stand for any more of the brutality or the BS going on around here. We decided to stand up for ourselves, and we got tear gassed for it. We got chemical weapons that are banned against foreign enemies used on American civilians in a city. that is populated by millions, which is mind blowing because not only did you tear gas millions, thousands, hundreds of people, maybe even a few thousand, exercising their First Amendment right, you tear gas people in their homes just watching. Innocent people not even have nothing to do with anything, sitting in their homes watching it. They got tear gas. Wouldn't, and they had no remorse for it. They had no care in the world. It was just whatever it was. Like, this is what we're doing, and we don't care who we hurt or who's affected by it. A woman almost lost her child because she was shot with tear gas. A lady was shot in the chest with tear gas. She could have died. Like, this is how we treat normal human beings on a day-to-day basis. This is what we do to our community. This is how the police protect our community. If this is how they do it, then we're better off protecting ourselves. Cause, I mean, CHOP doesn't seem to be doing bad. It seems to be like a lot of families walking around there smiling, laughing, and enjoying themselves. So if that can happen without the brutality and all the extra things that the police bring to the situation, why can't we get rid of these chemical weapons so that way they don't even have to be a thought, they don't even have to be a process, they can just be
John, and the reality is that we can absolutely ban these chemical weapons, and council can vote to do that today if they do the right thing. Tristan, do you want to add anything additionally about why these chemical weapons should be banned? I mean, especially, let's remember, it's in the middle of a pandemic, which is COVID-19, a respiratory
right.
tear gas, and make sure we unmute Tristan before he starts.
Then I talked to other people over here because I talked to.
Thank you for allowing me the chance and opportunity to speak before everybody, and just giving me this chance first and foremost. But I'd like to, first say that the people out there that are risking their lives every day to fight for everybody's equal justices, or potentially catching and contracting from other people and giving other people COVID just so that we can have equal justice and to be recognized as a people in our community, and we've united to do that. And not to only just speak on the fact of the chemical weapons that are being used against us, but as well as the chokeholds that are being used against us that need to be banned, because I know that this topic is also about that and pertaining to those, because that's killed people in the colored community, people all across the community, to not just display one perspective of it, but just everybody. When the police get their way with getting away with so many things due to the fact that they have so much oversight over themselves, and it's so much internal bull crap that the community, the people who pay them for their retirements and so forth, and their checks that they get to live off of to police our communities, to keep us safe and protected, when they turn around and bash the demarginalized communities that are impoverished already. And when you have those people confronting them peacefully and only marching, exercising our First Amendment right, and to try to walk and proceed through our city streets that we live in and we pay taxes for, to allow us to have these rights, for them to protect them, for them to turn around and barricade us and trap us behind certain areas, to then not even follow their procedures, which I last read that their procedures were to announce a disperse, in order to disperse before they're allowed to use such chemical weapons against the people of Seattle. They never issued a lot of those orders at any time. Most of the time when I was there present, being gassed or maced myself. So for them to have these things and policies written and they don't even follow them is a smack in the face to the people who are there, in support of the police themselves. Because you got to ask who are they supporting and who are they protecting at that point? Because it's definitely not the people. I didn't feel protected, and now as I walk through Capitol Hill, it definitely feels a lot more vibrant and happy without being confronted with less lethal force. That's definitely not, less lethal with people that have asthmatic symptoms, and those crowds that are just fighting to, again, bring equal justice and recognition to people's lives that are being smothered and gassed and choked out. These are issues that, of course, like you said, that we have the opportunity to change, and the people who are watching, which is the rest of the world, and definitely America at this point, to see what happens. The city council is aware of that, and they're aware that, we're not going to give up on what we're doing at this point either. It's going to continue, and they're going to hear our voices. So it's best in their interest, because I do live here in Seattle downtown. I'm one of their constituents, and if they don't act accordingly to how the people would expect their leaders to have the common sense to bring morals and moral moral bills and ordinance to the city, if they can't act like that, then we're going to have to start thinking about who can when we go back to elections, because again, our voices are out there more than they are. We're in these streets fighting for the justice and fighting for the equality, when they're over here just sitting around reaping the benefits of the taxpayers and not doing nothing to help them. I mean, this can go on to many different issues besides this, but to stay on topic, the chemical weapons that, again, are banned in many different treaties around the world because of the cause and effects that they have on people, and especially just general civilian populations mostly. You know, it's ridiculous that in such a progressive city like Seattle, we're here talking in June 2020 on why they can't use them against peaceful protesters who've done nothing wrong except exercise their First Amendment right. So this is why we're here to speak up on these issues. And like I said, I haven't slept in quite a while because I'm continuing to be home with my family and out there trying to bring the community together. So I'm up more, going on another 16 hours right now, but so excuse me if I'm slipping over on my words, but my point is that, again, this council is going to hear its community, because it makes a difference when we go to that voting block, and we're listening and we're here to speak. So I would just expect the same from our leaders in the chamber, to, before they speak, to just listen.
Well, thank you so much. And in reality, yeah, we're going to force the council members to listen to as many of us as possible, by making sure that in about 15 minutes, we walk people through this process of signing up for public comment. But while we're waiting for that, for that time for them to open up that public comment website, let me go ahead and read for both Teal, Sean, and Tristan, but also for everybody watching who's going to need to speak to council members and really overcome some of the shenanigans that they like to pull in order to delay things and water them down. Let me just go ahead and read and then get Teal, Sean, and Tristan's ideas about how can we respond to some of these ideas. And I'm not joking when I say that these are actual things that we've been hearing over the last several days, because of course, council members, in the middle of literally a mass uprising where tens of thousands of people locally, hundreds of thousands, if not millions nationwide, are saying we need an end to this brutality. It's not easy for council members to vote no on such an obvious thing like banning chemical weapons, which again are already illegal in war. So here's literally some of the things that we've been hearing. We need to review these ordinances first with the Seattle Police Officers Guild. And I'm not even joking. And mind you, there's an active petition with many, many signatures to kick the Police Officers Guild out of the Labor Council right now. But that's one thing that council members have been saying. Another thing that they've been saying, passing these laws would intrude on the mayor's right to run the police department. Now that's a real interesting one that I'd love to hear Teal, Sean, and Tristan's ideas about. Another one, these are important weapons for patrol officers to have. If we take away weapons from the police like these, then only more people will get killed because they'll have to use guns, which is a shameless argument, shameful argument. And then another thing that I'd love to get Teal, Sean, and Tristan's ideas, passing these laws will make it harder for police to carry out their duties effectively. Public safety will be in jeopardy. Police morale will be hurt. And then the last thing, which is a tried and true thing of the Seattle process council members bring up over and over again, is we would love to pass this, but we've got to delay it in order to study for this issue more. Those are all things that we've been hearing over the last several days, and which we know are going to be coming up today during the council meeting. And we're going to have people speaking to them in public comment. I'll start with you again, Teal, Sean. What are some of the things that you think we can bring in to respond to these points from council members?
That's what I'm saying. So anyway,
alrighty. So honestly, dude, that's classic politics for you, man. So I'm gonna tell you something about the guild needing time to review the ordinances. Listen, you guys have had since 2012, since the Department of Justice has been overwatched on top of you guys. You guys had since then to get it right. And yet again, here we are in 2020, talking about this again, because you guys clearly didn't get it right. I don't understand. It seems like after that, you guys got worse, not better. I'm gonna give you some statistics on why. Here's a little thing to study. I'm gonna give you a little bit of statistics so they can study. So when police point their guns, right? When SPD officers point their guns, percent of the time when they point their guns, they're pointing it at a black or a brown person. Now, mind you, like I said, black and brown people only make up between 3 and 8% of Washington's population. So every time they point their gun, they're pointing it 20.6% of the time at a black or brown person. Just like SPD's brutality rate, 32% of it is against black or brown people. What is there to study? This is a no-brainer. For you guys to need more time to study is basically saying that we don't care that black and brown people are being abused and that the police are above the law and that we don't have to hold them accountable. That's basically what you guys are telling us, is that black lives don't matter. It's basically what you're saying by saying that you need more time to study this and review that. No, there is nothing to review. There's nothing to study. It's written out for you. It's labeled plain as day. The statistics speak for themselves. We can sit here and go back and forth day and night till our faces turn blue. But statistics don't lie. Numbers do not lie. And the numbers say that this is what needs to happen. It's been needing to happen. It's just now that we're finally fed up and tired of it, it's an issue now. Now you guys need time to study and debate. Well, here, I'm going to tell you guys something. For years, black and brown people have been studying and debating on how not to get killed by police officers. For years, black and brown people have been studying and trying to review how not to get killed and how not to get abused, on how to deal with these officers when they encounter them. So if you need time to review them, we didn't get time to review how we were going to interact with you guys. So why do you guys need time to review how you guys are going to act towards us? And this is not, listen, civilians, we are civilians. We are not terrorists. We're not a terrorist group. We're not a terrorist organization. We are civilians. We're human beings. Why is it so hard for us to fight for our right to be treated equally in this country? Why is that so hard? Land of the free, home of the brave, one nation under God, indivisible, all equal. Right? You guys came into these communities and you terrorized them. You didn't help these communities. You terrorized these communities. And now that our trust is not there, Seattle at all. She gave us her word that we wouldn't get tear gassed for 30 days. It doesn't matter what happens. The fact of the matter is that it happened within that 30 days that she told us we wouldn't. So how do you expect us to let you keep control over a police force that you have no control over from jump? You gave us your word and it got broke by your police force. So how do you expect us to keep trusting you with our lives and our safety? Right? I don't get it. I'm trying to, it's unfathomable.
Thank you so much, Teal Sean. Let's go to Tristan here. I want to get your ideas before we have to go and walk people through this process of signing up for public comment. What do you think about some of these ideas that, you know, the mayor won't have enough, won't be able to run the police department the way they need to, that these weapons are important in order for police officers to maintain public safety? What are some of your ideas on this, Tristan?
Just, you know, the lack of accountability from the city council. If they're trying to delay the fact that this conversation needs to take place, then they've had ample amount of time to review this ordinance that's codes are trying to be implemented. So with the mayor trying to say that she doesn't have she'll lose some type of hold over the police department. She's never really had any hold over the police department, if you ask me. I mean, since I can remember, these police have been running around doing what they want to. We can look back at, you know, just recently on Aurora and with Elijah McClain, you know, how his death happened and the fact that his family was looking for him for God knows how long before they knew what was going on with their brother on life support in the hospital due to Seattle's police brutality for no reason. You know, you say his name, Elijah McClain, that's terrible. So, I mean, as far as the mayor losing any type of control, she has none over these police. They become tyrants the moment they put their badge on. They forget that they're human and they think that they're above human law at that point. So I'm tired of hearing that same story over and over again. I mean, we can replay plenty of mayors telling their citizens that same thing, and I'm tired of it. I'm not hearing it. My generation's not hearing it. So I mean, that's an excuse and a cop out for her to get away with trying to avoid the subject, that topic at hand. And I'm not going to continue to avoid it. This is here. This is now. This is history, and we're not losing the traction. And if Durkin's in the way, she's gonna have to go. I mean, it's the facts.
Right, and I really appreciate that point there. And the cold hard fact is that when they talk about needing more time to study, or they talk about needing to hear from this or that agency or department, in reality, we've seen that over and over again. And what they're really trying to do is wait out the movement. They know that it's hard for working people, for activists, you know, to step onto the stage of history, to go out there and day night to battle for basic stuff, whether it's community needs or not to be attacked by chemical weapons for exercising your basic rights. Right now, since it is 11:55 and around noon, the city council is going to put up that or is going to open up the public comment. So what I'd like to do is just go through a basic PowerPoint demonstration. It's very brief and just brings up some of the basic things that people should do when they're trying to most effectively give public comment. So if we could get that splash screen put up, and we'll go through very quickly some guidelines for the chemical weapons ban public testimony. You'll see that, you know, some of the stuff is basic. You know, you'll be limited to 1 to 2 minutes depending on how many people are signed up. So you don't have a whole lot of time, but you also want to make sure that you are yourself, that you speak at a normal pace, and of course that you tell your story. Part of that story is, of course, and if we could go to the next screen, you know, make sure to introduce yourself, where you live. These council members theoretically are beholden to you, are representatives of you, not big business, not the Seattle Police Department, but you. So make sure that you emphasize where you live, where you work. If you're a member of a union, community organization, make sure they know that you're working with that union, working with that community organization, so that it's not just you as an individual, but that there's organized pressure being put on the council. Now, we don't need to go through a step-by-step list of why this thing is good for ordinary people, why this thing would benefit communities of color and protest movements. Peoples are most effective when they're telling their story about that. And so this basically just lays out the fact that the city council, as you can read, if Black lives do in fact matter, they've got a very clear and easy opportunity to demonstrate that today. And that's just a very, very initial first step, that they could vote for this chemical weapons ban. As we know, however, and if we could go to the next screen, it's not going to be an obvious thing, because we know that the police department has been using these tactics, as Teal, Sean, and Tristan have noted, for decades. They've been under a Department of Justice consent decree where theoretically they should have been studying things like this, changes like this, to further make it so ordinary people don't suffer the impacts of their abuse of power, but they haven't made these changes. And furthermore, we know from the last several days, and especially this morning, that there's a litany of things that they're going to try to do to delay. So I'm not going to read through each one, but if people could just process these, and in their public comment, it's always most effective when council members know that they're being watched. Community is paying attention. They know the different arguments that council members are going to try to make, like, oh, the Police Officers Guild has to weigh in first. This is the same Police Officers Guild that council members voted on a contract 8-1 with Councilmember Shama Salwan as the only no vote, that rolled back the accountability that the Department of Justice consent decree was trying to enforce. We know that they're going to make the argument that public safety will be put at risk. As Teal, Sean, and Tristan have already noted, if that were the case, then when police withdrew from the East Precinct, we should have seen a spiral into violence and chaos. In reality, what we have seen are peaceful marches and occupation of City Hall, followed by several days of beautiful community expression in the area known as CHAZ or CHOP. the occupied protest area. So knowing these efforts by city council members to delay so that they can wait out the movement and water things down, that's going to be critical to providing a good public comment to make sure that the council members know community is paying attention and they won't get away with it. And just the last screen, some clear, easy points. This is already banned by international law, as Tristan and Tealshawn have both noted. And it's definitely time that city council take that same measure. They have Councilmember Kshama Sawant's law right before them that they could pass, and all they need to do is vote for it today. It's noon right now, so why don't we go ahead and move to Nick Jones in our office, who's going to walk people through right now the process by which we can sign up for public comment so that we can make these points to the council members directly. And while you're doing this, don't leave, because we're going to hear more from Tealshawn and Tristan about why we need, how we can win this and other demands of the movement, because they're not just limited, of course, to this chemical weapons ban. We also want to defund the police. We want to get protesters out of jail, and we want real change based on taxing the big businesses that have the money to fund community needs. But right now, let's hear from Nick Jones about how to sign up for public comment and make this point directly to council.
All right, thank you, Adam. Yeah, my name's Nick. I'm a community organizer in Kshama Sawant's office. Hopefully everyone can see my screen here. And the way that we've been doing public comment has, changed from its in-person kind of usual iteration to kind of how they've been doing it online. And this page, you kind of got to find this page, and it's not terribly difficult. What I usually do is just in like a search bar, just look up Seattle public comment. It should bring you right to right at the top. It should say public comment, city council, or this.gov website, council committees public comment. Just click on that. It'll bring you to this page, and they've got all these kind of explanation about the process by which it'll happen. Generally what you'll do is if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see this public comment sign up. Everyone should go to this and fill it out right now. We, big business and the establishment try to pack public comment with kind of their representatives a lot of times and various lobbyists to try to gum up people giving expression to what we need. So, you need to go, you should go to this, fill it out. And very importantly, you need to put in your phone number. The phone number you put in here will be the one that the city clerk will call when it's your turn to get on public comment. So it's really key you're able to fill that out, and then just go to the bottom and hit submit. And that will automatically register you on the list of public comment. Everyone, again, really want to emphasize this, should be filling this out right now. Again, just Google Seattle public comment, will bring you right here. Yeah, and then once you have this, your name's in the register, at the, I believe, 2 p.m. City Council meeting. Yeah, it's 2 p.m. You'll see right here. Just go to seattlechannel.com. It'll all be broadcast on there, and they'll be calling folks, and you can watch everyone give what I'm sure will be really powerful testimony to, make the city council prove that they actually think Black Lives Matter by passing these really even just initial first step reforms, to fight for our Black and brown communities in Seattle and ensure that we can push back against the police brutality we've been seeing over and over again since protests have broken out and before.
All right, thank you so much, Nick. And I'm going to put Tristan and Tealshawn on the spot right now. Tristan, have you signed up for public comment? Did you follow along and sign up? And Tealshawn, maybe you probably should poll over so you do it safely, but have both of you been able to sign up for public comment?
Man, can I bite that? I'm a credit you.
All right. Oh, you're on mute right now, Tristan.
I actually got it from somebody else. I don't know where I heard it, but that is the perfect description.
All right, great.
But you can still credit me.
So yeah, I don't want to, it's critical, as Nick was saying, that right now is the time to sign up. Now you can do it later, after this call ends, but really even at the expense of, getting off for now and signing up, now's the time when your voice can most effectively be heard by city council. We know that this is not the only or even the most impactful way of making change. Of course, the movements in the streets and the rallies and the demonstration are far more powerful in the end of the day, but we need also to focus the energy and the power that is being built in that streets on the point of attack at times, and in particular when city council has something as straightforward as a law to ban chemical weapons, ban chokeholds, rubber bullets, tear gas, things like that, crowd control, quote unquote. We know that giving that public comment, making sure that that city council knows community is paying attention, it does have an impact, and we've been able to win things over and over again that otherwise we wouldn't. That usually City Hall is not accessible for working people. It matters to have an office like Councilmember Chamasawant's office that opens up City Hall to the movement so that the voice of working people, and in this case, communities of color who are so disproportionately impacted by these terrible chemical weapons and other uses of force that the police have, we know that it does have an impact. So hopefully a lot of people are signing up right now. Hopefully a lot of people can add that voice during this city council meeting. As I mentioned before, we do, of course, have a golden opportunity today, right here, right now, to force the city council to ban chemical weapons and chokeholds. But at the same time, we know that that's not the end of the story here. The tens of thousands of people in the street, over the weekend, over the last weeks, are not simply calling for an end to these brutal weapons. They're calling for a lot of other things. Just to name off a handful of the demands, and it's by no means a complete list, but I just want to name them off, and I just want to open it up and see, hear what Teal Sean thinks, hear what Tristan thinks about these demands, and also about how we're going to win them. Because if we're just talking about them, but we're not able to focus the power of ordinary people, the power of community of color on the point of attack, then we won't win them. So I'll just name them off. We've got, of course, the end to brutal weapons like these chemical weapons and chokeholds. We've also, of course, heard from the movement the demand to immediately release and drop the charges for all protesters who have been arrested during this movement to get justice for George Floyd and beyond. Of course, a big demand that's come up time and time again, every step of the way, is that the police need to be defunded by at least 50%. And in place of that, that amounts to $200 million. The police budget is $400 million. We want that money. The community, the movement is demanding that go to things like restorative justice in the community itself for things like housing, basic needs. Another thing, turn over East Precinct control to the community, turn it into a community center, into housing, things like that. We've also seen the demand for the Police Officers Guild, the Seattle Police Department, to be kicked out of the Labor Council, which is the body that working people organize around and shouldn't have a repressive apparatus like the Seattle Police involved. And then lastly, we know that gentrification and just the systematic racism has impacted so many communities of color especially, but working people as a whole in a negative way. We need big business to be taxed. We need to tax Amazon to build the housing that is needed to provide basic things for our communities. So that's a list of the demands that we've been hearing. Teal Sean, I'll start with you again. What do you think? What do you think about those demands? What are your thoughts?
Honestly, dude, I definitely think we should definitely take some of that money from SPD because it needs to go back to the communities where it came from. Like, if you take money from SPD, you can afford to put into Black and brown communities that are struggling, where kids don't have a good enough opportunity like some kid in Bellevue. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like we definitely need to defund the police and get us all on the right track and tax big business, because big business is the reason why the Central District was racially gentrified instead of equally gentrified, I guess you could put it.
Tristan, what are some of the demands that most resonate with you, or if there's other things also, feel free, but yeah, that list or other demands, what do you think beyond the banning of chemical weapons? What are some of the things in your experience on the front lines of this struggle that you're hearing about, and how can we fight and win these things?
I definitely think, honestly, I believe that we're on to something here. And if we choose, this can be bigger than anything we've ever seen in history. You know what I'm saying? We have the power to take this movement and make it so much more. And I feel like once the council members realize that and see what's really going on out here, and I would love for them to come spend time in these communities of black and brown people and understand the struggles that these people go through on a daily basis. I live in one of those communities. You know what I'm saying? I see it. People have to understand, you can't say that, oh, this community doesn't need that, but this community does, if you've never been to the communities. Do not prejudge communities based on the outside. You need to actually go inside those communities and see what they need, because let's be real, the black and brown communities are struggling educationally, their social services, all that, and defunding the police and taking money from the big business and releasing, putting systems in place to where it'll set people up to win and to understand that we all have a part in this. And whether they want to or not, big business has to pay their fair share. We get it. So what? Nobody wants to pay taxes. Hell, I don't like paying taxes. Who does? But at the same time, though, when you're the 1% that barely gets taxed, you shouldn't care about paying taxes. It shouldn't matter to you because you barely pay them. See, me, on the other hand, I pay them all the time. I pay them every day on everything I purchase and everything in my life. Just like I go to work, I pay taxes. And my taxes pay for a lot of these things that these big businesses build, the businesses and all that stuff. My money pays for that. And so for you guys to sit here and make it as if we just don't understand and we don't get what's really going on and what's really being presented to us, then you guys cannot say that we don't know what we're talking about, or that we're just delusional, or that we just don't have a clear understanding of how the world works. Because to be brutally honest, we have a real good, definitely have a good understanding of how the world works and how things translate and how they correspond to one another. Because to be real with you, honestly, you can't really say that. When is the last time somebody, a black person or a brown person, can say that they have reached out to the police, called 911 or something of that nature, and they've actually come to help them without accusing them of doing something? Because I definitely can't. I don't know too many people that can. So for you guys to say that, oh, you don't need to be reformed, that you have ideas that, oh, you can do this and it'll be okay, and that you'll still be safe from reparations and consequences. No, me personally, I'm to the point, I'm tired of giving them ways out. We've gave them a way out. We gave them a way out with the Justice Department. That didn't work, obviously. So why do we keep allowing them to stay in a labor council that is built and it was made for the working class people, when the police are abusing these working class people that are in the same labor council they are?
All right, Tristan, what do you think about some of these additional demands beyond the the bill to ban chemical weapons? And then after Tristan, I'm going to go to Nick. We've just got word of a concrete amendment that Councilmember Herbold is going to put forward to delay this bill. But before that, Tristan, let's hear about, what are your thoughts of some of the broader demands? What most resonate with you? And what do you think about this movement and its demands beyond the demand to ban chemical weapons?
I mean, there's a lot of things beyond the demand of just banning chemical weapons and what this movement represents. This movement has a lot of power behind it, and people fail to realize because of the amount of division that's trying to be sowed within it and from without of it. If you look back in history at the civil rights movements, for instance, that was just for the people to be treated civilly, no matter what color they were, of all socioeconomic statuses, even though people that are higher up on the food chain of money to get treated better. But I mean, for the people in poverty who don't get, poverty doesn't distinguish through color. So no matter what race you are, what background you are, you still have to deal with the same injustices that we do on one point or another. And if you don't believe that, then they really have you divided and confused. So, I mean, it's the demands that go beyond this of taxing big businesses, because if you look back in the day when the Greyhound station used to be down here in South Lake Union, and, you used to drive on the freeway and see that pink toe hanging out the side, that tow truck, like this was an undesirable part of Seattle that nobody wanted to live in unless you were low income. And now, I mean, you look around and there's so many towers from Jeff Bezos, and we got more cranes coming up for more high-rise $4,000 studios, one-bedroom apartments, while we have a huge problem with homelessness and mental health disorders in our community, outside of the homeless population as well, that don't get the attention that's necessary, especially amongst the colored populations. They don't have the outlets to reach to get the help that they need in a lot of circumstances. They don't know where to go. And, by taking this part of the city for the resources to be used in a better manner, after, we break the budget down to Seattle Police Department and how much money they got to militarize the police, it's ridiculous. Because if you look at Capitol Hill and the people that live there, they don't have a community center. They don't have anything like that in that area. So this is what's important more to the people than the police. And I know that there's going to be that argument, well, once we take away from the police, there's going to be the fact that there's more crime rate going up, which is debatable. But I mean, history's already shown that in New York, when this was previously done, when their union decided to pull police department, the policing down a little bit, it's not that anything happened anymore. Crime didn't happen anymore, any less. Just the arrests went down because they didn't have such a huge quota to try to make up for, to explain why they're trying to arrest people for no reason, just to make up for those taxpayers' dollars that are overpriced anyways. And I mean, so the main agenda is trying to make sure that the police department is not the only resource that you have when you call 911 besides fire and medical. You should be able to have a lot more allocated dollars towards real community resources that don't have to fend for the scraps that are left over after the police departments have depleted the rest of the funds. It's not fair to the rest of this social, nonprofit organizations that really care about the people that are here on the streets, that are there really working for the communities. And, the police departments, I'm not sitting here saying that they don't work for the communities, which in a lot of times there's a lot of bad cops that work against the communities and bring us to these conversations, but it's the fact that we allow them to have the power to do such. And it's the people who are going to have the power to take that away. And we're not going to continue to prolong this, because I know that they would like to sit here and wait this movement out. But unfortunately, we'll outweigh their terms in waiting in these parks and waiting on their doorsteps and coming to city council and marching. People aren't afraid to get arrested in this movement. We're dying out here. So, I mean, they can't stop the clock on how long they arrest us. As long as we're peaceful, a bell shouldn't be that much.
Right. No, thank you so much, Tristan. And one really important thing to remember, and I was just looking at the Seattle Times has an article right now. Over the last 5 years, the police department budget has grown by more than $100 million. And this is a time when the richest 1% of society has seen almost all of the recovery, the gains from the recovery from the last economic depression, which was just 10 years ago, where millions of people lost their home, millions of people laid off, working people's wages have stayed the same, communities of color especially have just been gutted through gentrification. And at the same time, we've seen the Seattle Police Department budget grow by $100 million. Hell, since the coronavirus crisis began, Jeff Bezos has personally made tens of billions of dollars more, and they're fighting tooth and nail against a tiny 1% tax that would lead to $500 million every year worth of social housing and Green New Deal reforms. So this is an obvious thing to working people. Obviously, hearing Teal Sean go into detail, Tristan go into detail, it's obvious. But as Nick Jones, who is also a community organizer with Councilmember Chama Sawan, is about to describe, for council members, it's not so obvious, or at least how they continue to represent the interests of big business is not so obvious. They've got a lot of tricks up their sleeves, and Nick is going to talk about a budget or an amendment to this ban on chemical weapons that apparently one of the council offices is going to bring forward. So Nick, can you describe it to us a little bit? and we'll finish in about 11 minutes. If people haven't already signed up for public comment, hopefully please do. It really does matter if we're able to get the community voice in on this so that council members know that these things are noticed. Oftentimes we can overcome them, but at least if we're not able to, we can make them pay a political price. So Nick, can you tell us about one of these amendments?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Adam. Yeah, and again, there's things are moving very quickly, especially behind closed doors in the establishment. And our office thought it was really pertinent to share with kind of the movement what is, as we've kind of been already, what's being discussed. Yeah, and this is an amendment being presented by a self-described progressive council member, even, which just I think shows really how intertwined the establishment is, with big business and the political establishment as a whole. So from Councilmember Herbold is introducing an amendment that says, quote, kinetic impact projectiles, like flashbangs, things that blast balls, things like that, chemical irritants, acoustic weapons, directed energy weapons, water cannons, disorientation devices, ultrasonic cannons. The police can continue to use these if the device is, quote, used for a purpose other than crowd dispersal. And this is just a loophole that would blow entirely apart the entire point of this legislation to get rid of these weapons that Teal, Shaw, and Tristan have gone into quite a bit of detail as to why they're just totally unacceptable for use in our in working class communities. Like, say for instance, even one protester threw like an empty water bottle at the police. That's ground then for them to use all of these weapons that are banned by the Geneva Convention and war even. And I think just for folks that are crafting their public comment, I think we need to roundly reject any amendments that make anything we do toothless. And our experience over and over again, amendments are always put forward to try to take all the teeth out of the things that our movements fight for. But we can push those back with the power of our collective movements, as Tristan and Teal, Sean have also talked about. And that's the key, right? Is that we fight together in a grassroots way against the watering down of the things that we need by the establishment. So I think, would underscore for people that in public comment, if we can, and just say we absolutely reject these this huge loophole amendment being presented by Councilmember Herbold. And any attempt to delay as well. That's, I think, something people should keep their ear out for during this council meeting, is that council members are going to try to continue to delay this, say that hopefully in their mind, as Tristan was saying, they're going to try to wait out the movement or whatever. We should say, absolutely not. We need these things now. There's no reason to wait. So I just wanted to share that as it kind of came in and became information available to us.
All right. Thank you so much, Nick. And yeah, I really can't emphasize enough how effective it is when we're able to even preempt these efforts, clearly by Councilmember Herbold to carve into the legislation a gaping loophole, which would basically allow the Seattle Police Department and the mayor to decide in exactly the same way as they always have how they're going to use these weapons. And that cuts to another demand that Teal, Sean, and Tristan have been speaking to, which is that we need community control over the police department. It's not enough for the police to investigate itself, or for a mayor who we know is beholden to Amazon and to other political establishment. At least we don't trust them to be able to decide when it's okay and when it's not to use these potentially lethal weapons. And again, it is, I'm just noting, I just opened Seattle Police, or Seattle Times has a headline: protester hit by police flashbang faced possibility of life-threatening deterioration. And this is a young person who was just recently peacefully exercising their right to free speech and faced life-threatening impact as a result of this use. So no, we don't trust the mayor and the establishment with the use of these, which does cut down to the question of community control. Tristan and Teal, Sean, we got about 5 minutes left before we're going to let people go. I guess I'll start with you, Tristan, this time. Is there anything else you'd like to note, whether it's about why we need to ban chemical weapons, how we can fight to pass this law, or any other of the demands? Also, given your experiences over recent days on the front lines. Feel free, of course, to talk about your experiences there, and really appreciate, on behalf of Councilmember Shama Sawant, who unfortunately is too busy working on these issues to be able to join us for this community. But I just before want to really enthusiastically thank you and Teal Sean before giving you the final word here.
Oh, I just wanted to thank you guys, and Shwarma, of course, our councilwoman there. Just other things that just I happened to not get over to speak on this point that I just want to bring up is that's important to me in this movement is today the movement. A lot of people are organized because they do feel that this is the city council's not hearing to the demands that they're trying to set forth. So they do plan marching daily from where they are to the city hall and the headquarters, the police headquarters, every day at 7. So, I mean, they're not ending this at this point, so I just wanted that to be known for the community and the public and all of our council members that, again, that this isn't just over. We haven't just stopped to hang out and chill at the Capitol Hill ongoing protests. It's not about that. There's a lot of people there that are still enthusiastically behind the cause and support everything of it. And, these people have their lives dedicated to it. I'm seeing a lot of people who are, pulling up their tents, and the funds that are coming in are ridiculous from all over the world in support of this. So it's not going to end no time soon. And our demands are going to be met because, again, we're going to continue to exercise our First Amendment. We're going to be down there at City Hall. And if necessary, we'll whatever it takes to make sure that Black lives are understood, that people recognize that Black lives matter. And if they can't, then we're not giving up. So that's pretty much all I have to say, and wanted to add to that in case anybody was interested in walking for the cause today at 7 o'clock from Capitol Hill to the City Hall and headquarters. So that's just out there for the public watching to get that word out.
All right, thank you so much. And I know that Teal Sean also wants to come in here, and maybe Teal Sean, if in addition to talking about this stuff, we're hearing a lot of fancy words, coming out about disbanding the police, fundamentally changing the way policing is done. But it's a real good indicator if they won't even pass this chemical weapons ban about where their real intentions lie. So if you could talk about, that or any of the demands or just why we need to ban chemical weapons, any final words?
I'm just completely, my mind is completely blown on the fact that we as a city, as a state in Washington, and as a state in America, and as a city, that we have to have these debates about whether to ban these weapons. They're clearly, the Geneva Convention has already banned. The United Nations doesn't even see that these weapons are fit to be used against terrorists. Why are we having a debate about if they're fit to use against American citizens? That's just mind-blowing to me, if you ask me. And it's just like, I just feel as if everybody's running around like, oh, we're just gonna wait them out. Give them a few more weeks. It'll be done and over with. Listen, there's no chance of this slowing down anytime soon. This is global. This is gonna keep going on until we see some tangible change that is for real this time. Like, we as a community, as a Black community, me personally, I have had it as a member as a Black community. I have had it with the nonsense from the police, and I'm tired of people losing their lives. I'm tired of having friends that grow up, kids who grow up without their parent or things of that nature because police decide to be judge, jury, and executioner all at one time. That is too much power for one establishment to have. That is way too much power. We're giving them the power to choose life and death. Are we serious? We're gonna leave life and death up to tyrants. That's fine. I mean, when I think life and death should be decided by the community as a whole, because we make these decisions. We know what these communities need. We know how to get our points across and how to make change within our communities. We know these things. And I feel like defunding the police and taxing big business will get the results in the communities that we need as a whole. As far as legislation goes, we're gonna have to put some major pressure on the council, the mayor, whoever. It's gonna take a immense amount of pressure on them for them to change things legally. You know what I'm saying? Like, for us to see legal change, we have to keep pressure on them. We have to put pressure here, put pressure there to make them want to put pressure on each other. If they put enough pressure on each other, eventually it explodes. So if we get them fighting each other, they're gonna understand where we're coming from. And we have to keep pressure on them to understand that we're not going away, because Black Lives Matter regardless. Black Lives Matter, and we're going to show you guys that Black Lives Matter. Here, whether it's Seattle, whether it's Minneapolis, whether it's California, hell, whether it's in Istanbul, Black lives are going to matter in this country, in this world, period. And if it takes the rest of my life to prove it, then so be it. But things are going to change. Change is coming whether they like it or not. I guess, whether it's the heart, you can have a bunch. Here's the way I see it. With this vote today, you can make a bunch of people happy and you can push this movement in a positive way, or you can make a bunch of people angry and you can give them a bunch of energy to push and put pressure on you and to keep being in your faces. So I guess it's really all up to them what kind of pressure they really want. Because either way, this is going to get done. So I guess it's up to the council members what type of pressure they really are prepared to deal with, in the mayor. Because we're just tired of it. We're tired. Seattle's tired, man. You guys haven't noticed by now, it's been, 15, 16 days now since this started? We're not going anywhere. We're committed to this for the long run. And we all need to come together as a community and keep fighting this and keep getting these legislations passed, because that's how we change things in our communities, and how we get the money we need to fund our communities.
I don't think there's much more to say than that. Just the fact that if we are going to win these things, whether it's a ban on chemical weapons or a defunding of the police or a tax on big business, all of which are needed in order to actually get community needs, then we are going to have to apply mass pressure. And yeah, I think you said it perfectly well. If we could put on the splash screen that indicates where people can go at 2 p.m. to watch the city council meeting. Hopefully, again, we've had a lot of people sign up for public comment. That'll be a place where we can apply this pressure directly. At 2 p.m. is when the city council meets. Again, if you sign up for public comment, be ready to answer your phone when the city clerk calls you. You've got 1 to 2 minutes to explain why we need to ban chemical weapons, why we're not putting up with any delays or any watering down. And of course, thanking Councilmember Kshama Sawant for putting these forward. And then of course, the fact that, as Teal Sean said, nobody's backing down. This movement's not backing down. We're not stopping just with this chemical weapons and chokehold ban. The movement wants to release the protesters, defund the police. We want SPOG out of the Labor Council, tax Amazon to fund community needs. There's a lot of things that this movement is wanting to build its power to win. So thank you again on behalf of Councilmember Kshama Sawant, and thank you Teal, Sean, and Tristan for participating in this public meeting. And hopefully, hopefully we win this legislation, and just at least for a day, council members can have the goodwill of the movement. But again, it's going to be based on the power of our movement if we win or lose. So thank you again for helping us build this, and we'll and thank you Tristan for publicizing this march later on tonight. I think you said 7
Right.
to City Hall. Hopefully everybody can go to that as well. And thank you again for joining us, and onward, and Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
All righty.
stand up. Stand up. Stand up. You're standing up for Black lives. You're standing up for Black people. You're standing up for the betterment of our city. City. You are losing lives in our city. City. That's unacceptable. That is absolutely unacceptable. We will not sit down. When it comes to protecting ourselves, so, you will get 5 minutes to take care of all of that. All of them all trying to drop. 5 minutes, this is what we do. Come back together, 5 minutes, back down to Prepare. Time to home base. You think they know what this is? Going right there.
Virtual museum. I want to do augmented reality. I want to do an animated version. There's a lot of things that are possible. And this space here can be a great place along those things. So if you really want to help, and I'm going to say this, resources are needed. And I'm going to say a word that sometimes is triggering. It's called reparations. And some people think it all the time means about money. That's one. But how about deeds and services? You got organizations here that have access to services, have access to technology that's a drop in the bucket to support these children. So we really want to help the next generation. Let's provide them the opportunity, the resource that we have that can assist them to change the world. Thank you very much. That's Delbert Richardson. DELBERTRICHARDSON, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Long-time Seattle resident. I'm from the city. I grew up in the area where I knew the corner store, I knew the drugstore, drugs, I knew the dry cleaner. We were all black, and we all knew everybody on a first-name basis. And as you know, Seattle is quite a different city. My other cousin is president of transportation and the president of community. It's been an honor and pleasure to support Joaquin and the group of and bringing this to the reality. Today is a very impressive day. I started my entrepreneurial journey over 30 years ago with my first business on the corner of 23rd and Cherry, Soul Station Records. As a volunteer firefighter with Seattle Fire Department, which I was attachment because I did my first ride along here right here at Station 6 many moons ago, servicing my community. I love the direction that we're going, and where we're at right now is we're at an opportunity for everybody to step up and be a part of something the world has never seen before. And I'm really looking forward to seeing people beyond what's just going on right now, but making it a continual effort to support the effort to bring the type of community that we deserve to bring the type of financing and support that we deserve to continue to make Seattle grow. And we have a great, rich culture that's been hidden and that's been lost. And I look forward to playing my role in bringing that so that we can all learn together and grow together and realize that we're greater. And we don't forget about those that laid the foundation for all of this. Alright? So thank you guys for coming out today. We look forward to seeing everybody put their heart, soul, on the floor to make this happen. Everybody's position is not the same. I tell people like, yo, those that are out there marching, I salute those that's out there on the front line with the flag guns and taking the gas. That's your position. Everybody can't do that. Especially there's some elders and other people that's just not the position. Your position is you volunteer. Your position is you financial donation. Like, find out where your passion is at. Maybe your passion is counseling. Maybe your passion is whatever it is. Find out what that is and don't feel any kind of way if you're not on the front line. Don't feel any kind of way if you don't have the financial resources. Give your time. And the knowledge that we all have is our prayer. Give that. I thank you guys for coming out to that.
Hi, you guys. Trayana Holiday. T-R-A-E, capital A-N-A, last name Holiday. Community organizer who is
Just kind of ruffle.
Yeah. Understanding an idea that in order for this to happen, it's going to take the resources of all of those who have profited off of the events that Seattle laid to make this a tech city and a city of the future. So we are asking and encouraging all of the large corporations out there who have the resources to support this effort, whether it be technology, furniture, artwork, whatever it may be, IKEA, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Facebook, all of the large corporations throwing anybody who has the funds to give to young black youth. We're calling on you right now. It's a call to action for you to step up and actually pay forward what Seattle laid a foundation in terms of tax breaks for you to be here to make the billions of dollars that you have off of consumerism and capitalism. Let's actually use that towards an investment in the future and towards balancing the scales. When we talk about equity now, what we're talking about is what Elijah laid out and what Wale laid out. It's a demand right now from the young people to have equity and to have balance. So that's what we're doing right now. I'm encouraging all corporations that have the resources that can write it off. Someone said earlier, a drop in the bucket for you to give toward this movement in general. Now, William Gross is one center. We need 10, 20 of these in order to really balance the scales. We might have Liberty Bank building and now Jackson Heights, Monica Village. We need 30. We need spaces for people to come back to the Central District and really be able to grow and thrive here, call this place home as their grandparents and great-grandparents did. So we're just putting that call to action out here right now to anybody who is willing to join us in this movement. Use your resources to help us. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Kemi Wakoma. That is spelled T as in Tom, E as in evening, E as in Mary, E as in evening. Last name is spelled W as in walk, O as in over, O as in over, M as in Mary, A as in apple. My name is Kemi Wakoma. I represent the Central District. I represent Wanawari. I represent Africa County. I represent Dream Enterprise that was previously at the Coyote Central. My great-grandfather was all the families who had fireplaces because black folk didn't have money to rewire their house when it was time to do so. I represent the entrepreneurs who started off on street corners and Douglas Street. I represent FBI as I'm a licensed cosmetologist and got my accreditation from there. So I represent my community. I do everything in my power to represent my community and to stay here. I live at Jackson Heights. I do everything in my power to remind young people who look at me, who see me perform at Paramount, who see me perform at the Moore Theater, who see me perform at the Repertory Theater, who Langston Performing Arts Center. I literally represent my community. And this right here is the beginning of letting our young people know that we are not that it didn't stop with me. It didn't stop with White King. It didn't stop with Trayana to get the gems that were given to us. We're working really, really that is being experienced gentrification. I had to leave my home in 2015 because I suffered extreme anxiety to be one of the last my great-grandfather owned 8 properties. We had 8 properties were now down to 3. It's due to simple math. What does that do to a person when they come to their community and they that care about them? And then they need to look at them like strangers. So this march that we're having on 18 is not just an opportunity. It's an opportunity that we once again so the march let everyone know that we were going to start on 23rd and Union. We want everyone to know we are starting on 22nd and Madison because we would like to honor that legacy. Because it's all about storytelling, right? It's all about knowing. You can't start a destination if you don't have what you get. So this GPS, all these organizations that believe the GPS is well, how can I be if no one remembers me, if no one cares about me, if there's no programs to go to after school? I went to Lincoln Hughes after school. I walked there from Parkland High School. I went to Odessa Brown to get counseling when I felt like I couldn't handle my school workload or I felt like I couldn't handle social things. Odessa Brown was there for me. So we have to really reconsider what's happening in our community. Where are the people who are being displaced? What are happening to them? These are the questions we all need to have on our minds. Because as we have Amazon and the big companies who are shipping people in and paying for them to come here, you're literally paying for people to be displaced. You're paying for us not to have to You're paying for us to have less education. You're paying for us to have less information. So we very meticulous about decisions we made, what areas we prosper, and pay homage to the people who laid the ground here for this to even be an attractive place for you to want to come to. This was redlined area. My great-grandfather was the first to buy a house on his block, responding to an ad that said, in a neighborhood with no niggers and no kids. The money talks. So we're just asking for the resources. We're not acknowledging you cannot continue to come to our legacy and erase it. We're not going anywhere. So we ask that you guys join us as allies. We ask that you do not march in mix with us, but that you protect us. Because we have to understand that our community is under attack, whether you want to acknowledge or not. And if you want to be an ally, be a protective ally. Don't be an ally that wants to overdo and sit and listen to us. What we need, our history, where we've been, where we're ready to go. So again, June 19th, June Friday, at 2 p.m., 22nd in Madison. We're starting the march. We will march to Massachusetts. From there, we will have a people assembly. We will address projects such as this, projects such as CHAZ, projects such as the whole campus. Because everything needs to be renegotiated in this community right now. March that. That's good.
Black-led, community-based, accountable organizations. The current scope and scale of organizations is large. We stretch from the Central District to South King County. I think in this unrest has unearthed a couple of questions. I think there's been a lot of interest in solving the racial injustice. And I would just implore folks that want to solve the racial injustice to do their research and identify organizations that are accountable to the Black community. We represent Black-led, community-based organizations in this work. I would also invite the private sector and folks that in government follow this coalition. There's the unprecedented scale of Black-led community organizations. Follow our lead. We already have plans for how to get to equity. We have folks that are doing it on the ground. So this is a call also for people that are looking to support. Personally, I see there are a few agencies, I want to say, maybe we should that way, that will be as accountable for the Black community as the King County Now Equity Coalition. Point number 2, I just want to put this win today in context. We have a mayor right now that is being hit on all sides. We have civil unrest that we haven't seen since the likes of the civil rights movement. This was a property that was already guaranteed. That's how our community feels. This was a property that was already guaranteed to us, and yet it took immense amount of organization, immense amount of pressure for the city to really, I mean, it was a clear, easy win. For me, I want to make this more than a PR move. I want to make this more than a guarantee to a Black community for a property that's currently vacant that was already guaranteed to us. So I want to contextualize this. This is a good step. The racial resource gap between the Black community and the white community is so large that this is a drop of a drop, and yet I don't want to take away from the momentum and also folks with big support. But this is one step. We currently on the KingCountyNow.com website already have a call to action for another property that's vacant that could be activated right now with current proposals by partner organizations that will speak. We will continue to lay out properties. There are multiple vacant properties in King County that can be activated for the Black community, for Black community organizations that already been proposed. So I would ask folks that's been excited about this movement, but let's make this more than a movement. Let's make it a movement. Continue to follow along with the coalition, and let's truly get to equity. We can't get to equity one day, but we can get to equity. We will. You guys follow along. So thank you.
My name is Dominic Davis. I'm the founder of an organization called Community Passageways. We're a felony diversion program.
Will, you guys follow along. So thank you.
My name is Dominic Davis. I'm the founder of an organization. Right? So I need people to go to King County Equity Now, let their voices be heard on how they feel about this property going into the community and let community operate out of it. If we can, when we pull this off, if we are able to get these facilities off the ground, we will be able to service our young people in our communities a whole lot better and give them the necessary tools that is needed for them to be able to transition from being out here in the streets, doing the things that they've been doing to survive, and put them in a place where they can have opportunities of success. We want to have the technology piece, the science piece, all the opportunities that they're getting in all these other places around our county that's not falling into our community. Right now, what I'm looking at is we had a big spike in gun violence to our community, right? Then on top of the events that we're facing right now with police brutality. So now we have COVID on top of that. So we've been dealing with pandemic after pandemic after pandemic, but we also need to understand that systemic racism has a whole lot to do with a lot of these issues that the Black and brown communities are facing throughout these pandemics. So in order to combat these issues of institutional systemic racism, to put people in a position to be able to overcome the long-lasting effects that these pandemics are going to have on our people, we need to have a facilities to operate out of so that we can pull these young people in and help work with them and work with their families. Families and young people will be served in this facility. I'm looking forward to this. I'm excited about this because the collaboration of community-based organizations will be housed and stationed in a place where we can operate at a high level, operate with a lot more youth, and be able to not be so splintered in different parts of the community and work in silos. Right? And at the same time, we'll be expecting to go after bigger resources and bigger pots of funding all together as a collaboration so that the grant and RFP cycles are not splintering us, so we're fighting over the same pots of money, trying to get pieces of what was put out there for us. Because we're getting crumbs sprinkled off the table. And we can't keep surviving that way, and it keeps all our organizations in survival mode. And we need to step into a place where we can build and build and build and look at what we're doing 10 years from now and not 1 and 2 years from now, because we're constantly fighting for scraps, right? And so putting this building up will answer a lot of the check boxes of dealing with gun violence, dealing with homelessness, dealing with hunger, dealing with education, dealing with job opportunities. I can just go down the list of all the check boxes that we'll be able to check off when we are able to get our hands on this property and build the facilities that we have envisioned. So, and at the same time, African Town will own a piece, Creative Justice will own a piece, and Community Passageways will own a piece. So now ownership is also part of this process, where we're owning some of the property that has been so gentrified to the T in Columbia City. Thank you for listening to me.
So again, you've heard from many active, effective members of our community organizations that have this coalition. This effort is not about this moment, it is about the movement towards equity and bringing land for access to develop, capital to develop, and then control over the resources. With millions, if not billions of dollars, because of the large philanthropic organizations that are based here in Seattle that go out every year. Many of those resources, the large majority of those resources, which are dedicated to solving issues where Black people are overrepresented. 40, 50, 60% of Black people are in the homeless issue. When we talk about incarceration, overrepresented in that issue. We talk about education. We've been working on supposedly solving the education gap for so long, right? And we see so many organizations with our faces on their brochures, our stories at their annual breakfast, raising millions of dollars, but that money is not going and not under the control of the people who are supposed to be impacted. And so King County Equity Now is demanding that those resources again be directed, and we realign how these resources are allocated to solve these problems, and that the people that are supposed to be impacted have influence, power, control, authority, and autonomy over how these solutions are developed and how they're resourced and how they're implemented. So just to speak a little bit about what will be happening here in the short term, again, we have many community excitement about bringing this resource online for our community to be able to build again. We have many entrepreneurs who have been again negatively impacted by COVID. There are no events. We have a lot of our entrepreneurs that sell merchandise, that have services, sell at events, at pop-up, because they can't afford the overhead costs, because they don't have access to the capital, because there is a wealth gap, so they can't just get money from their tech friend, put it together, and open up a new boutique, right? Particularly with the cost of real estate and commercial space so high. And then coming into new development, the cost of tenant improvements are so high. So what we're going to do is provide an opportunity where we have food trucks, we have pop-ups right here on site, so we can immediately provide opportunities not only for them to sell in this post-COVID era, but also to get their businesses online. We also have a problem. Our contractors in our community are not able to participate on all the development. We don't have any of the cranes. I mean, when we talk about equity, we don't own any land downtown, any of those buildings. How much commercial space, industrial space, Black people own here, right? So the little bit of residential land that we were reserved to as basically an urban reservation, redlined into and quarantined into, now that that is desired, we're pushed out. So we have to be able to have that land here. So this is what this will be addressing also, a contractors resource center to be able to help our contractors become more effective and get culturally responsive technical assistance to participate in rebuilding the community. We don't want things built for us, we want things built by and with our community, providing those jobs and opportunities for businesses to grow, build generational wealth, and pass it on. We'll also be dealing with having design, right? Our community is very creative, have always been very creative, but there's so many things that everything around us has been designed, from the cars, the buildings, your equipment, right? And so we want to have opportunities for community design lab for our young people, our community period of any age, to come in and think about how should products be designed to best serve our needs, right? How should buildings, how should spaces be designed, the built environment, to facilitate our unique culture and lived experience as well as celebrate that. We also want to provide a creative hub, again, for activating the online businesses in the post-COVID environment, and provide culturally responsive technical assistance and business development assistance to our community. Again, a one-stop shop, so you don't have to go to 4 or 5 different places, which all may have different types of practices, and we want to have one place again where you're welcome, you're understood, and you can be serviced in a way that you maintain your dignity and are able to move forward. So with that, thank you, and if there's any questions for anyone else that's in here, we'll take them at this time.
You mentioned that you found out from city press release about the transfer. What is the transfer actually mean in practice? Are they
rights with Martin Luther King and marching. There were white people that made a decision to march with him, and they used their privilege for the benefit of others. So I want to put that call out to my white allies. Love for you to contact me. Let's join forces. Let's change the world.